Hello and welcome to another Cosmic Heart Conversations podcast where you're joined with me, Georgie Dragonfly, and the wonderful Tiffany Tin today. Here is a podcast where we share all things about light language, light codes, and this journey that we're all on together so that we can transform, evolve, and expand in loving awareness. And now we're going to be welcomed in is the beautiful Tiffany. Welcome yourself into this space. Share your love, share who you are and what your I am is coming in at this time.
Hi, Georgie and everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Tiffany Tin, and I am a priestess of light. I work with the lineage of light, like angels, dragons, LeMUrian lineages, and some Starseed lineages as well. And so I'm here today. Thanks to Georgie's special invitation. Thanks for having us here. We brought our whole team to be in the podcast, and we look forward to sharing some of our experience or knowledge about light language and light codes.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and thank you for being here to share this wisdom, because I understand, you've really been on such a wonderful journey through YouTube specifically. I've been there since I think you first started on YouTube, and watching your channel grow and how many people you're reaching and all that you're offering and sharing on there. I love that, because it just shows how much we can gift to each other and help and support one another. So where did this all begin for you? Because there obviously must have been a seed that started to blossom to give you all of this wisdom that you're able to now share for the collective.
Yes, thank you, Georgie. It's so nice. And yeah, it's been a journey. I think this is my 6th year full time being a healer. And it all started, I guess, how far can we go back? We can go back all the way from Arcturus when we first volunteered to come here. But in this lifetime, for me, really, I just got really inspired by other also YouTubers at the time. So Teal Swan, for example, she talks about shadow work on YouTube. Matt Kahn, he also have a very gentle aura like you. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't cost anything to put myself out there and share some of my experiences, because I'm sure we were talking earlier that people might feel lonely and are we going crazy? Are we making this up? But the more of us that come forward, the more of us that talk about things like Lemuria, dragons, and spirit guides and light language, the more we get validation that we're not alone. And so that's when I first started to come onto YouTube. And as for my activation journey, I think it started way before then. The divine always guide us to where we need to be. So
Yeah. So when was you first activated with your light language?
That one is very interesting. So I actually started with energy healing first, and then I delve into shadow work, and then I dive into Akashic Records. And through my Akashic Records, when I was learning to channel just for myself, just to practice, for me was remembering my Lemurian past life and my Arcturian connection in terms of the Akash. So through there, I started to work with my guides that are in the spiritual team. And just one day, randomly, I started blurbing out these light language in a deep meditation. And I was like, oh, what is this thing called? Like, is it called speaking in tongue, or, is it light language, soul language? What is it? And I just started diving into YouTube to see, is this a thing? And lo and behold, there's other people also doing light languages as well. So yeah, that was when it first started, when I tuned into the cache, and then the gifts started re-downloading. It's like an iCloud, and it's like coming back down to this temporal self. And you're like, okay, there's things you can access within the cache. So that's the short version.
We're on a podcast. This is your space now to really share and
Thank
illuminate
you.
the story in its full glory.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how it first started. And
Mm,
since you invited me to share more, I think for me was when I was doing a meditation, and when I woke up, I was drawn to look at a certain spot in my bookshelf, and it says Arcturus. And I was asking, where is my soul most connected to? Like, where's home? And that's
mm,
like a confirmation right there. And then, yeah, and then all the magic started to happen. And
mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, they really start to then like work with you, and you're open to receiving that and feeling connected. So was there any point that you, I suppose, where you were doing lots of energy work and really working within yourself, there was probably a level of certainty in what you were experiencing. But was there times when you felt unsure of this, and how would you tackle something like that?
Mhm. Yeah, for me, in terms of light language, surprisingly, there's no doubts. It was like 100% very confident in using this spiritual ability or gift. I think it's partly because that's why I am here. Right, just like you, I'm here to hold space, right, to help people remember who they really are, the multidimensional selves. And so, yeah, for me, it's just like, no, this is a thing. I remember, there's no doubt. But of course, some, little judgment might come forth and be like, oh, are people going to make fun of me or think I've totally lost it?
Mm.
And I think some family members, they did think that. They're like, oh, there she goes with the woohoo thing again. But I owned it. I'm like, yep, there's my woohoo thing, So
Yes.
I think if anyone is discovering their gift, and like you said, if there's doubts and people kind of, doubting you, the best we can do is own it. Just, say, yep, that's who I am. This is my gift, have no shame about it. And the moment when you have no shame about it, they have nothing to say. It's like, they're like, all the chatter or the doubt stopped, and you just
Mm.
keep doing your thing.
I suppose that's like a vibration thing, isn't it? Because, you know, the shame's going to have a vibration, and then the energy with that will come in to match that, to show you that you have the shame there.
That's
Yeah, so
true.
not having that energy, it's like it kind of builds your life force and your protective sphere of energy, because you're like, I haven't got that frequency, so you can't kind of come at me with to make me doubt myself.
It's so true, Georgie, because the
Mm.
first few years on YouTube, yeah, I did get some like mean comments. They like, you're possessed by the devil, go repent to Jesus, or
Wow.
things like that. Yeah, the first few years, we as sensitive empaths, we get like, like we get sensitive about it. But now that I'm more grounded in who I am, I don't get those comments. So if I
Mm.
do, it doesn't hurt me anymore. I just delete it. Be like,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is it. We're all on this, like, especially on these platforms, like being on YouTube, you have all these different people just coming in. The algorithm probably just sifts that through for people, and if they find it and they're not in alignment with it, they might have an urge to write a comment from a place of where they are.
Mhm.
So if we don't take that on as personal, there is a way to navigate that, I suppose.
That's
Um,
true.
yeah, no,
And
that's
I would say,
interesting.
yeah, to the listener, 99% of people on YouTube are nice. Uh,
Mm,
I find, because like you said, YouTube, usually people find you when they have to put a search term, right? So they're already interested in the topic you're doing. Whereas I find sometimes like on Facebook or Instagram, where it's more random, then you might get you more resistance.
mm.
Or more people to show you need to do shadow work. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would, encourage people to try YouTube because
Mhm.
that's been, yeah, I found a really nice community there.
Oh, see, that's really nice to know. Yeah, and
Mhm.
because you've talked about a lot of different cosmic beings as well. So has this been something that's like a journey that's unraveled for you slowly, or like how has that all happened that you've had this amazing connection with all these different beings?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, those are fun. It's like making friends. They come and go. Um, some of the beings, for example, like the higher consciousness mantis, right? A lot of times when you say mantis, people get very nervous because of the negative orientated ones. But the high vibrational ones, they're like vegans and really funny and very high dimension, high vibrational, and they're very
Mm,
supportive. So that's when I first started to release my fears and judgment about how, they might look at us and think, oh, she's a human. And looking at the planet, they could judge us and be like, she's like one of those people. But they don't have that type of mentality. They
mm,
see us as a soul. And if you're willing to work on yourself, to empower yourself, to expand, if you're in alignment with them, they are happy to help you. So the mantis beings helped me with channeling in the beginning, like
mhm,
releasing fears, and him being very funny it also helps. And then I started to, yeah, explore with like dragons, ascended master angels. Those are just throughout my life. Even when I first started, Kuan
mm,
Yin, Jesus, and angels were very close to me because I grew up in a more religious type of education system.
mhm,
So Mother Mary, Jesus, and I've always communicated with them.
mhm,
And yeah, dragons came a bit later, and the star friends, like inner earth beings, the Arcturians also came later when I've done my shadow work, or like a big chunk of it. And I actually really like that. For my journey, it was slow and steady. And I like that because it's more manageable. And I've seen people that force it to happen too quickly. They can get very, very ungrounded and they question their reality. They lose the groundedness in this now. So I really like how my guides or my higher self or whoever, maybe me, who like managed it to be like, okay, do this first, learn about energy, learn about being an empath, and then learn about shadow work, and
mhm.
then slowly open to channeling. So yeah, it was all step by step, and each guide bring forth a piece of the puzzle to where I am now. So
Yeah, yeah, I like that. So, um, did you have experiences then as a child with some of these beings, or was it more just
um,
the Mother Mary?
yeah, I
Say
know
just.
that Jesus, Mother Mary answer prayers. I just always understood that. I was also exposed to like Zen or Buddhism as well. And that's when I started to break through the limitations of religions. So,
Mm,
like for example, I was growing up, my school, my Christian school, would be like, don't worship idols or statue. But then right behind them, there's a statue of Jesus. So they were trying to say Buddhism is not good, or you should only stick to Christianity or something like that. I know not all church or school are like that, but just so happened the one I was in was like that. And I'm like questioning things like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Like,
mm,
why would God want us to only do this one thing? What about the other things? Why is it wrong?
mm.
So, yeah, that started my expansion journey by questioning everything.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing, isn't it? Is this curiosity. Like I'm
Mm.
noticing there's lots of people who are coming on here. There's always this curiosity, and that seems to be what breaks you past those limitations. If we don't question things, if we just
Mm.
accept the reality that we're given, then it doesn't allow us the moment to expand because we're not looking beyond it.
Right.
because I relate to that. I was very similar as a child, growing up Catholic, and it's always kind of like, this doesn't, what, I was always questioning and didn't want to go and do the communion, and my family were like trying to force me to do it. It's like, why is this little child so defiant and like not wanting to just follow along, just do it, like just do it? And it was like, no, I don't want to, I don't agree with it. I didn't agree with any of it. And it's just like, can you just do it at least for a little while? My mom was like trying to, when you go to secondary school, you won't have to do the second part, whatever it was called, because you got communion and then there's another one after that. And I was like, okay. So I let them do the communion, and then the second part was like, that's it. But it's interesting because there's always this thought of, there's something else. There's something else here. So I like that you brought that to the table. If we all start to think, what else is out there? What's beyond what I'm experiencing now? And then it invites that in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's that openness, right? I guess like with souls like us who come in, like, and sometimes I try not to use label, but it's more for understanding's sake. So like the old souls, the starseed, we came very open-minded, and you'll notice it in people too. When people tell us something that we don't know, we ask them questions, right? Like, tell us more. I don't understand. Like, tell us more. It really gives us that opportunity to expand ourselves. If we're like, nope, that's not happening. I always like to use some examples, right? Some people say, how could there be aliens? There could not be aliens. That's just us. And I'm like, well, if you take an ant and you see from the ant's perspective, can the ant really understand a rocket ship? Or, can it understand an automobile, or, like an airplane? It probably can't. So maybe in certain aspect, we are the ants too. There are things that we don't know but exist. So yeah, having that
I love
open-mindedness is
that.
so
Yeah.
important.
I love that analogy because it's where everyone's perspective is. You're going to see from that space, and gosh, yeah, ants. And just
Yeah.
the visual I got there was just so funny, like seeing like an ant on going like, oh, I'm going to go on this rocket ship.
Yeah.
I see there's a rocket ship. There's this thing. I've got to go and investigate it.
Exactly. And humor helps too on this journey. When you're more funny about it, people get less defensive about it.
And again, that comes back to also like, that's a vibration. I feel like laughter is a vibration, and it takes you into a vibrational resonance as well, being able to laugh through things.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
important.
so through like your shadow work and working with different beings, has there been anything that's come up for you that has been particularly like challenging, and like how you would come through that? So like meeting different beings, finding the discernment with that, because there's probably, I'm just thinking about who's on here, they might be like, oh, okay, I'd love to know how the higher dimensional mantis being and these other mantis type beings that are not. So I'd love to ask you a little bit about discernment and how we define between these high dimensional mantis beings and other beings that are not in the service to the whole.
Thank you, Georgie. So important, this question. And for me, you always want to observe and you don't ever want to give up your sovereignty. So high dimensional beings, you kind of want to approach it like a as above, so below type of attitude. Like if they were your friend or your family member, would they behave like this towards you? So a lot of times when you work with these guides, a lot of people say, oh, that's it. They only gave me like a one sentence guidance. That's actually could be a sign that that being is a high dimensional being, because they don't like to take control of your free will or tell you what to do. A lot of times they will let you or guide you to understand, okay, now in this situation, it's showing you this part about your maybe shadow, your fear, so you can work on it. But they won't tell you, oh, you should do this or you should go here, do it. They might say, if you ask them, should I move here or move there? They will give you like an answer, maybe that, well, going here, what type of emotion would it bring up for you? What are you trying to accomplish in this location? And then versus the other. So they give you options, they give you guidance, whereas lower dimensional beings can sometimes pose as a high dimensional being, but you can tell they over time their vibration shows. So if they tell you what to do, like eat this or now do this, so they always like this possessive voice. That's not high dimension. And when people tell me their guides like control every aspect of their lives, I'm like, oh, you have to discern. Maybe this guide is not the best guide. So yeah, definitely from that perspective, but also you question them. It's like an interview, like what is your purpose, what is your intention? Like if you invite them, that's another story, like, you know, if you invite Jesus or Kuan Yin. But if you are inviting, let's say, some galactic beings especially, you want to question them and you want to ask them. You can also ask your higher self and an existing guide that you trust to help you filter it. So for example, I trust Kuan Yin. So when I'm reaching out to a galactic being, I first connect with Kuan Yin first, and I see my light body. My light body with Kuan Yin in her body is so big as a bodhisattva. And I ask for her to hold space for me as I reach out and connect to other star beings. So this route has worked for me. I still feel I'm pretty grounded, even though I've connected with a lot of star beings. So I think that really helped me. So hopefully that's a good tip for
Yeah, I think it
newbies.
is. I think it is. There'll be, it's nice to know all these different ways and avenues of how people connect and how people work in these other realms, because I would say that the unseen realms, it's a totally mystery for many people. And, it's good to explore. It's good to be adventurous, but then also we want to make sure that everybody's all right. And
Yeah,
being
yeah.
grounded is so important. It's probably one of the most important foundations with working spiritually and in the etheric realms, because it can be quite easy to go off and be a bit floaty and you know I just love, like, I could just meditate, and then once I really get into it, it's like I don't want to come back. I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this all day. But then for me, I'm like, okay, now I've got to do something really grounded, like doing weights, going for a walk in nature. Like I've got to really make sure, and I love those parts of my life, but it's like they're really even more important sometimes for me personally than my meditation, because of the ability to kind of go off here, there, and everywhere. It's like, right, let's spend some time in this reality and bringing what we share with our vibration, with the understanding that we have, into this reality.
Mm.
And yeah, so star seeds, light workers, that type, we definitely have that tendency.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
it's
then,
like there's like the saying, chop wood and carry water, you know. It's
Mm,
like, and myself also, my guides always remind me, the higher you want to grow, the deeper the roots needs to be. There needs to be a balance. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It just really gives you a better ground to work on, in your body, keeping this body, this vessel, and this temple in
Mhm.
really good condition for doing the work. If you are someone that is like yourself and myself, that are bringing information out for others, helping others, being a healer or an activator, whatever it is people are doing, even if you're not doing that, we're still got to look after this energy, and we've got to look after the body that's holding that. It's holding the divine. So we want to
Exactly.
look after the body.
Yes. Yeah.
um,
Without the body, there's nothing. So we
we
here with
wouldn't
this
be here.
body. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this elemental body, why does it hurt? But
Yeah,
then, yes, you're like, okay, just need some relaxing, some massage.
yeah. It's all about keeping the balance in this human existence. So, with that being said, because I know we spoke about the Lemurian remembrance that you were having, and I resonate with that too, because that's a big part of my life. So would you be able to like delve in a little bit more into that? Because I'd love to hear what you discovered, and how you're bringing that into your life now.
Mm. Thank you for asking. Yeah, with the Lemurian Akashic Memories, I think it came for me at the right time. So when I first got activated, I took Reiki. So it was very common where everyone takes Reiki, learn about
Mhm.
energy healing. But it was remembering in a deep meditation of my Lemurian past life that I broke through a glass ceiling, is that you don't need to stick with this one type of healing. You can add on to it. And I didn't know that, right? I always thought, okay, you got to follow this symbols and then that's kind of it. But then you're like, oh no, you can download things from your cache. Oh, okay. And for me, I remember like scenes. I'm mostly clairvoyant, clairsentient. So in my meditation, I saw these Lemurians, and they were going into a crystal cave, and I see people meditating, people healing. They like to heal in like a group setting. There was like three, and then one person receiving the healing or the activation. And I saw how each person was doing their thing. Some people had their hands like this, doing like symbols, like language. Others are singing, and then others are creating a grid around the person. So I'm like, oh, there's grid working. There is light language, or
Mm,
light code. So that's when I started to remember, oh, Reiki is just like the foundation. There's more that can come forth. So discovering that, and then over the years reading other people's Akash too, you're like, oh, this seems to be a common theme for a lot of us. There's something beyond just the foundational energy healing. Everybody brings a piece of the puzzle
mm,
now, and it's so beautiful to see everyone embracing their gifts. And the Lemurian consciousness in general brings forth the divine feminine, or the priestess archetype, right? Whereas Atlantis more like the divine masculine. Yeah, both of them had their life cycle, but the templates were there, and the templates are within our consciousness, our cache, our DNA now. So
mm,
now, as we enter the new earth, like people call new earth or Arya or Ukana, whatever you call the new template, we're trying to bring the balance. The wisdom we learn from Lemuria, wisdom we learn from Atlantis. Let's not blow ourselves up again. Let's create an earth that's like balanced and graduate, go back to the higher dimension where we once were.
nice.
So yeah, I would say in short that we're here to break the matrix and yep, and create the new earth again. So
Mhm. So that's something that's quite fascinating, where you've been kind of dipping into the Akash with all different puzzle pieces. You're obviously then seeing that pattern with Lemurian and Atlantis and what we're forming now. I think that's a really beautiful image there, because it's balancing the two. Yeah, that divine masculine and feminine energies within ourselves at this time. What's your take on the new Earth then, and how that's forming in your life?
I think there's like different holograms or grid lines of Earth. I think most of us in the 4D already. You notice 4D things just align much easier. There's less struggle, and people more telepathic towards each other. Like sometimes I would think about, oh, this client's face, and then they would text me, and sometimes I'll need something from my partner, my husband, and he would just know it. Like it's so interesting. You become more telepathic towards each other. When I need something, they just kind of fall into place. So I never have to stress like in the 3D when I was in the corporate. It was so hard. Everything is like push and hustle and just forcing it to make it happen. And now it's just like, oh, I need this. Okay, wow, this person shows up, and oh, I need that. And this works out. So it's like you said, a lot of flow, just like this conversation, right? In a way, we're working right now, but it's not like the corporate 3D where it's like you're being told what to do and there's a lot of egos and da da da. But this type of work is very aligned to both of our soul. Like we're just here being ourselves. We're just, there's no competition. There's nothing that is like ego. It's very beautiful. So that's like one example of like 4D to me, this new earth, right? Once we make it into 5D, I think it's going to be even more beautiful when people are able to understand each other more. So the mode of communication, a lot of times we use this 3D linear thing, we're communicating through sentences, but we know now when we're communicating through the soul, through the heart, and some people call it body language, but there's a quantum connection as well. So I think when people can tune into that, there will be less misunderstanding, less misinterpretation, more compassion. And we saw that in the recent times on Earth, right? We have so many different views about what happened, but all of it comes down to validating each other's experiences and be like, yeah, you believe that, that's fine. I honor that. In my reality, I experience it like this, but we still are a big family, right? We don't let the ego come into play and separate us. So I think that's where we're heading. I think we're becoming more mature as uh, as a Terrans or Earthlings. So once we are able to reach that spot even deeper, we're going to be able to graduate back into the galactic realm. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like a lot of that happening in many ways, and then we're seeing the polarity out there because there are people that are still moving through that transition, even close to us in our lives. Maybe some people are experiencing all of the other galactic sort of kind of experience and cosmic awareness, but yet still in those constructs as well. And it's kind of navigating that. How do we navigate then still being in those constructs, all those systems? And yeah, I find that quite interesting. I guess it's just a matter of really persevering and understanding that things are shifting, and that breakdown is that alchemy for the new to come through.
That's true. And the other thing is, as you brought that up, reminds me of being okay with learning. Because even, we think, oh, once you become enlightened or once you tap into your galactic self, then you don't need emotions. You don't make mistakes. And that's not true. And even sometimes people on YouTube would be like, oh, I thought you're a master healer. You shouldn't have emotions. And I'm like, wow, actually, I think part of spirituality for me is just becoming your natural self, your authentic self. So if I'm in this human body and I have emotions, I learn how to validate it, process it. If it's good, wonderful. If it's not good, then alchemize it, like you said.
Mm.
So, yeah, for any listeners out there, if you feel like you are not perfect or you're making mistakes or things like that, again, all of us do. But I find partly just from feedback of my clients or students, they say you are very authentic. Like if you make a mistake, you share it so that other people won't make the same mistake. And so I think that when you allow yourself to be authentic and be okay with learning alongside with your light workers, then you won't feel as afraid to put yourself out there. So
Yeah, I like that, because it's interesting, isn't it? I just think that we are, yeah, we're evolving through this process, and yeah, it's just sometimes really difficult to navigate that, and thinking that being only light, only love means not having these emotions and not feeling certain ways, and um, you know, I was hearing I watched something the other day, and someone had said, "Oh yeah," and then when you finished your like awakening process, and I was just thinking, I have not finished an awakening process. I remember when I was younger, like I used to think I was quite awake then. I knew about auras and this and that, and angels, and I was always pretty connected in that way, but as time gone on, it's like, whoa, okay, another, and it just feels daily, like there's a daily like awakening just continually
yeah.
happening.
It's just when you think, yay, I made it through one veil, and then the next veil comes, and you're like, oh man.
It's like it's still not in a negative way, but it's like you never make it, like, because it's an infinite destination.
Yeah, it's like a journey. It's just that's how I look at it now. Like it's a journey. Just flow with it, play with it, and
Yeah.
have fun in the process.
Mm. um, so as well, like, so did you do Akashics before you started with speaking light language? That was
Mm,
something, yeah, that's what brought it on, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So
Mm.
yeah, that's also when I learned a lot of my mistakes. So I share it a lot with my student. Like, for example, the dragon energy can
Mm.
sometimes be very strong, right? And when I was reading someone's Akash one time, the dragon guy came through and we were channeling the dragon's like message and voice. And then she was used to me being very gentle like this, but I was
Mm.
channeling her dragon. So it's like, hi, kind of like the voice became deeper and it scared her. So I
Oh.
was saying, that's the thing. When you work with a different energy than most people are used to, you have to warn them ahead of time. Like I didn't, I just flow into it. But now I learned, okay, you still have to be remember where they're coming from. Just because you're familiar with dragons doesn't mean they are. So
Mm.
you still have to, in the sessions, even though you're being yourself channeling, still have that. It's like you need a lot of perspective of yourself happening when you are in the
Mm.
session. Be like, okay, a dragon guide is coming through. Are you okay with that? Their energy is a little bit strong. So um, things like that, just like learning as I go. So
Mm.
mm,
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely something that we're all discovering and learning, especially like these new aspects. I imagine it could have even given you a bit of a, oh, so in
yeah.
yourself for the first time. I remember exploring some, and when some sounded more masculine, and I'm like, what? How does my voice sound like that? I'm the same.
Yeah.
I'm quite a gentle, soft person who doesn't even think they have the capability of, shouting or raised voice. And then, this other being is speaking with a much like more raspy, deeper
Mm,
tone. You think, wow, like, yeah, because I love dragons and also whales as well,
yeah.
and that's an amazing sound. And I just
Yeah.
suddenly, I'm like, I haven't even taken a breath, because it's like this breath with this sound. I mean, and that's just like me kicking in whilst it's happening.
Yes.
My little aspects going, what? How is this possible? It's like,
Yes, for
because
sure.
we're here. We know how to do this. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I learned that too. So yeah, it's very interesting. But even yeah, we channel different energies within ourselves. Like now we're more like the feminine, gentle energy. But I'm sure when we're in a session, this happens to me, or when I'm teaching a workshop, my demeanor change. I'm more serious, and I still crack jokes, but still giggle, but there's a vibrational shift. So yeah, it's really interesting when we channel, we get to explore these different aspects of ourselves and the beings as well. And yeah, it sounds like from you're sharing too, you connect with them like through voice, right? They
Mhm.
speak through your voice. And,
Yeah, so the voice
mhm.
really shifts, and it's, which can feel really odd in the body as well. You have to
Right.
kind of like, oh, it feels different. Everything feels different.
Do you feel
Um,
like your body is different too? Sometimes you're like, oh, I
yeah.
feel I'm taller. Or
Just I've had moments where like, yeah, I feel like as big as the planet, and I'm just like, bigger, and it's like, my goodness, this is a big body. It's a big energy, should I say? And I mean, even our own bodies could, if we really feel into it, I suppose it's only, or how I perceive it anyway, is that it's, for me, it's like these are aspects of me, and I'm like feeling vaster aspects of me, and my body, my existence expands to
Mm,
other areas and dimensions that I'm existing in, which is why it feels sometimes so much bigger, from being I'm just here to being like,
mm.
whoa, I'm also over in other parameters of the quantum field,
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, aura, like you said, so multidimensional. And I
Mm.
remember when I first started, it was just like, oh, what color is your aura? Take this quiz. But then now it's like, no, it's way more than that. Like there's multicolor, multi-layer, and it changes every day, not every hour. So so interesting. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you brought that up too.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, yeah, I just got the reminder. I was sort of going, oh yeah, like the other ones, and they're like, no, no, you're spreading, you're expanding yourself. I was like, oh, okay. Um,
Mhm.
so there was two questions that I wanted to ask. So
Mm,
I'll go into the dragon one first, because I feel like that was the
mm,
first one that came in. And I wanted to expand on what your thoughts are with the dragons at this time, what role they're playing.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are many groups of dragons. Sometimes they call clans, right? It depends on like what group you usually work with. Like for me, I usually work with the healers, the elemental dragons, and the portal keepers. So that's kind of like the three groups that I work with a lot. I noticed with the dragons, they're doing a lot of portal work. So the stargates, they portals, right? Physical quantum portals. Sometimes you even see ships coming out of the sun, but NASA hides it. But they use it to travel. And on the etheric realm, I would see a lot of dragons, right? They try to realign these stargates. So the, shall we say, service to self beings, sometimes they hijack certain neutral thing like a shape or item, or in this case stargate, and use it for their own purposes. But I'm seeing now that the shift is happening. These dragons and angelic beings are realigning these portals more for the light, more for expansion. Our grid line as well, when the grid line was hijacked and it was used for like a loosh farming thing and containing energy, but now we can feel the difference, right? It's more expanding. It's more like, it's not grounding your energy, sucking in your life force. Is more like holding it now and expanding it more. So I work with them a lot in terms of these areas, the grid, the portals, healing. They also taught me how to release entities as well, right? And how to cleanse houses from these chaotic being. So yeah, there's like different discipline that they teach me in general. And I'm sure
Mm.
your viewers too, those that resonate with dragons, some will teach you how to fly with your light body. Some
Mm.
will teach you how to enter other realms and astral travel. So they are
Mm.
fun to work with. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if it's just me, but I always think that I feel like I connect with a lot of people who connect with dragons,
Mm,
and I do feel that, like, say the community of like
yeah.
Starseed, spiritually waking, light language, whatever you want to call it, are all very. I feel like there's a vast amount of people that are very into dragons, you know, because
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful energy. But yeah, like you say, it's so powerful. I'm really,
Mhm.
you know, I'm really feeling such a deep, deep assistance for humanity. And, you know, because I do a lot of grid work and, I'll be out on the land and it's like I
Mm.
can just see them, like, you know, they're holding that space and they're like there. And it's just like, yes, this dragon energy is like, we've got this, you know what I mean? And yeah.
They always show up in clouds. Like people would send me pictures of like clouds, like the dragons, and I'm like, yeah, they're here.
Yes, yeah, they do. So like you just see like this big eye and then it like yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's how I see them
that
too.
actually does bring me into another question.
Mm.
Do you see them in even anchored in within this plane? Because like say like mountains and hills and things like that. Have you had any experiences um like actually within this earth and how do you perceive that?
Like them physically manifesting on Earth, or
Yeah, so like sometimes I find especially I've got a massive affinity with mountains and I really feel like they're
mm,
multidimensional and they're
mm.
very dragon-like.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the Rockies
mm,
in like America. Like when I went there, there was, you're right, like so much dragon energy. I was like, holy, like, is anybody feeling this energy right now? Um, I feel that a lot of them, when they were here in the other old templates of Earth that have happened, they left behind their magic, right? Their what we call light codes or energetic imprint into the grid. And they, yeah, love mountains, ocean, the skies in different elements. And we, those that connect with the dragon energy, can feel it. Right, when we touch the ground on the mountain, we can feel that rumble of the dragon breath, the quantum heartbeat of the dragons. And those that connect with water, we can feel the movement of the dragons in the water. And we see them, right? Like sometimes, like you said, you see them in the clouds of the eye when you meditate.
mm,
I think that, yeah, we're very connected to dragons. It's just the mainstream media often portrayed them as like mean or evil.
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because yeah, just from what I've discovered and what many of us are discovering through our own self-discovery, and
Mhm,
these even I would say like aspects of us, you know, are coming in to remind us of like parts of ourselves, and
mhm.
yeah, really wonderful. So I felt there
Yeah.
was another question. Haven't forgotten it. Um, so there was one that was coming in after that one,
Mm.
and maybe I should just let go of it if it's not staying.
Yeah, no
Yeah, I was like,
problem.
I've got lost in the dragon energy now. I'm like, oh yeah, dragons.
So excited.
Yeah, it was probably. Oh yeah, okay. I do know because it wasn't just about the dragons because I think we were going to talk about. You mentioned about Arcturus and you know that was a lineage that you were connected with, and is that your? Would you say that's your main star seed lineage? And have you expanded beyond that? Do you still feel that that's you know your main connection?
Yeah, definitely. I rechecked yesterday when I was funny teaching a light language class on galactic frequency. And yeah, for me, still, when I check with my higher self, Arcturus, it just tingled all over my body.
Mm.
And the second was like Pleiades, and then Lyra and Sirius.
Nice.
So yeah, like all of us, it's like a book, but that book is like dynamic, it's changeable, and it can depending on what energy you're activating with, what purpose you want to connect with the star system for, you can activate these different starseed lineage. So
Mm.
just because someone, let's say, I get this question a lot, like, oh, I just get this one feeling that I'm in all 5 of these system, where I have like 6 connection. I'm like, yeah, well, you have many incarnations, so you don't just get stuck in one system, but there might be one that really caught you, or 3. And so for me, it was more like Arcturus. And it is way easier for me to connect with my Arcturian guides compared to like maybe Palladian or Syrian guides. Like Arcturian just feel like family, sisters, just like boom, very easy.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. No, that's a good explanation because, I think people want to find connections, and it's good that, like you said, that you felt a tingle. So you're like looking for signs to
Mhm.
confirm your connections. Yeah, and I feel like I work differently. It depends what I'm doing and what energy comes in to work with me in that
Yeah.
moment. For certain, like you saying about dragons having different like disciplines. It's like, so whatever holds the right discipline for that exact ability that I need to bring through, it allows that to happen.
Yes,
With
exactly.
the
Like,
right frequency. Yeah.
yeah, they bring forth exactly what you need in the moment. So,
Exactly. So with that being said, I'd love to invite you into to share like a transmission for people to express, um, you know, something that maybe will help to assist them on their journey, whatever that might be, and however that might look.
mm, for me, it's just have patience.
Mm-hmm.
Like the society we live in right now is so programming us towards like instant gratification, right? Like just like scrolling on Instagram, people is like being trained to have these like 1 second attention, but channeling really, it's a deep experience, especially when you really want to advance your skill. Yes, we all get those one moment or two inspiration, but when you really want to train yourself, we have to train our consciousness to hold space for a longer period of time. And
Mm.
so I think a lot of people give up or question themselves if they don't get something. Like, oh, I've been practicing for a year, I don't get anything. I'm like, well, 1 year is very short compared to a master's journey. So,
Mm.
try not to judge the journey. You might feel like nothing is happening. But when I talk to people and I dig a little bit, they be like, oh yeah, well, the other day I saw an orb. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's something. Like, so try not to, stomp on yourself, and just be open and bring back the inner child and just play along this journey, but have discipline like the warrior at the same time, to train your consciousness, train your brain that you are the master here. The brain works for you, not the other way around. And
Mm. Yeah.
have patience. And I think that's the most important key.
Yeah, I like that because, yeah, exactly. We are, we're all trying different things. We've all got different senses and abilities to access this information as well. So being open to receiving in
Mhm.
that way, in a different way.
Yeah.
Mm.
And try not to force yourself into a mold. Like a lot of people is like, I'm not clairvoyant, so I'm not a good channeler. I'm like, hey, but
Mm.
being claircognizant is good too. Sometimes being a clairvoyant have limitations as well.
Mm.
So try not to feel like if I don't see anything that I'm not channeling, but because people channel in different ways, and they channel with light language, they channel with like paintings or symbols. So
Mm.
yeah, just embrace your gift. That's the most important thing. And
Yeah.
then once you love that part of yourself, then the others start to open.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
I like that. Yeah. Do you feel that you have any light language to accompany this now for those that are listening?
Sure. Should we do like a transmission, like a demo, or
Yeah, yeah, you can do flow what needs to flow.
sure. Let's see, since we're talking about patience and believing in yourself, let's tune into a frequency of the angels. Archangel Michael, the first ray, so more sovereignty, empowerment, and yeah, and I'll do a short transmission as
Mhm.
an example. Dear Source, dear Divine, dear Galactic Central Sun, and the purest form of light, dear our higher selves, our collective energy, thank you for joining us beyond space, time, and distance. In this now, we invoke divine protection of love to surround us. We invoke and command our soul's power to activate, to receive all that's appropriate to your journey, the appropriate healing upliftment for the following transmission of light language. We ask for the divine guidance and frequency of Archangel Michael to come forth, strong, strengthening our soul sovereignty. Channeling begins. Hung kun ni nai ti inale ni sini nalo ku utunule. Mui ni nai ki ni nai ku undana ni ki ikaloini. Hung sin nali ki itolai ni ki ayukun undi nale bi. Kundana ni ki iso nale ki hundi nale ki. Ukinaloi si italoi ni mi aloi ki. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Disengage. Transmission complete. Some 11:44 on the East Coast right now. Yes, so thank you for inviting us to share that transmission.
Thank you for bringing this forward for those that are here to expand and feel the different vibrational resonance of light language and how it can really take form in our life.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that you just taught a light language class. Have you got any offerings at the moment that people can come and find you and work with
Yes,
you?
yeah. Thank you for asking. I do a lot of online sessions, and there's the light language training. I have a light codes training coming up too, and more courses. They are all under my website, highpriestessascension.com, and they all a different price range to honor each person's finances at different points. So yeah, some are free, some are low cost, some are more intensive. So depending on what the person needs.
Love that. Yeah, it's amazing that, yeah, again, and of course you've got your whole YouTube with loads of
Mhm.
wonderful videos that, if you ever want to discover different
Thank
star seeds, you can just kind of go through your videos and
you.
literally, I remember when I was connecting with a mantis being, and I was like, hang on a minute, like, so I was like researching it, and literally you were like the only video speaking about this. I'm like, okay, there's somebody else, like I'm not the only one right now.
Yeah,
So
it's
it
so
did,
funny.
that brought me a lot of comfort. I was like, okay, this is all good, like I'm
god,
not
I
the
was
only
like there
person.
too. When I searched, there was no videos. And I'm like, okay, am I gonna be the first crazy one to post it? But I did, and here I am. So just embrace your experience and share. It's gonna help someone out there. So
Yeah, and thank you for doing so and showing that it is easy and it's beautiful and it's fun and it can be playful and it's also, really helpful. So for yourself and others. So thank
yeah.
you. And if
Thank you,
people want
Georgie.
to, find some of this work and watch your YouTube and work with you, then all the links are going to be below. So to do take a look when you come on and you'll see those. And we also have episodes every week. So we'd really appreciate lots of followings and likes and sharing so we can spread this message, spread this podcast so more people can start to listen and understand each other. And how we're all working and dealing with the different unusual circumstances that many of us are experiencing, the mystical in this very human reality and how we navigate that. And, embodying it, anchoring it, and really showing that we are able to connect to the higher realms and also live in this reality. So please
Mhm.
do, spread the message. And I see you all next week. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, Georgie. Thanks, everyone.
Mhm.